All right, everybody. Adam back with another episode of the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast, and we have Parker McDonald here. He's been on a couple times. We've talked about a lot of different things, Parker and I, and today we're going to talk about a little bit about turkey hunting, but I want to talk about like the transition from whitetail hunting to turkey hunting, and a little bit maybe to find out, I guess, if it's more specific to guys in the South than it is to the North, or like what his experience has been. Um, because I think everybody that I talk to now up here is, you know, shed hunting, waiting for some of the snow to get off so that we can go out and do some postseason scouting. And then it's like, if you're, I don't know, south of the snow line, I remember going back, it was like sometime around this time we had 3 feet of snow, left a blizzard, and I thought I was going to go down to find some snow, like light snow in southern Ohio. It'd be easy to find deer trails, sheds, all that stuff. And it was like 80 degrees, and nobody was thinking about deer. Nobody was thinking about anything. So I want to talk about a little bit of that stuff today. So, how you been doing, Parker?
Man, doing good, dude. It's funny that you say the snow line. We've had more snow down here. It snowed last week, twice last week down here. But from what I've been told, turkeys are gobbling right now. And I almost, dude, I almost tried to squeeze in going and listening this morning, before our podcast. But then I realized that you're on Eastern time and I'm on Central time, so it was going to be an hour earlier for me anyway. So I was like, no, can't go do that. But it's almost time, man. It's almost here down in the South. Like spring is close.
So it, I don't think about snow in Alabama. I always think it's hilarious when there's snow in Florida and there's an inch of it, and everybody, shuts down and schools are closed and people are sliding all over. What is your like annual snowfall, or is it like once or twice a year that it happens for you guys, or what's normal?
Well, before I tell you what's normal, I'll tell you a funny story. Last week, um, so we have city schools and county schools here where I live. The city school system and the county school system is kind of all on a different, little bit different schedule, but they kind of try to stay similar. Um, and we woke up in the morning. It was kind of snowing a little bit, and it was unexpected, but it wasn't a crazy amount of snow. County schools decided that they were going to let out school at 9 o'clock in the morning. Right, so they get there at like 7:50. Parents have to turn around and go back and get their kids at 9 o'clock. So then county schools is like, we're going to have school, and then at 9 o'clock they were like, we're going to release at 11. So it ended up being no snow on the ground. Like the snow was gone by 8 o'clock. It was bluebird, sunny day, and the entire county that I live in was going to pick up kids at the same time. It was chaos, and it was so stupid. Like it was the dumbest thing. But if that gives you any kind of, uh, like, you're exactly right. People freak out for no reason, and I was so mad that day because I mean, everybody. I don't know, the economy in Coleman County probably was shot that day because no parent could work. Um, and but that's kind of how snow is here. Like we've got it 3 times this year. That's kind of a lot, I would say. 3 or 4 times is, a lot maybe. And if it sticks for 2 days, man, that's snowpocalypse. You know what I mean? Like that goes down in history books out here.
And so then for you guys with snow, how does it how does it affect your deer hunting? Everybody's like, oh, these cold fronts coming in, blah blah blah. Like, how do the animals react in situations like that, and what does it do to the like for your mindset as far as like deer hunting?
Super super cold, does it seems like everything kind of shuts off, like it's too much for the deer. Judging by cameras, we've had some snow this year. I haven't used a lot of trail cameras in the past, and so this year was my first year really diving into them, and there was basically no movement on snowy days, like pretty much nothing. I find that the best weather here for deer movement, If you can get a day that's going to be, low in the high 30s, a high in the 50s, maybe 40s, that's like perfect. Like so right there in that middle, really nice, comfortable hunting weather. It's not too hot, not too cold, and if it's during the rut, it seems like that's the day that um, deer get killed. Now, for me personally, my experience has been those really like freezing mornings that warm up to the 50s. So like if I've got a little bit of ice on my boots um, from the dew after sitting in the tree for 2 hours, 3 hours, those days usually end up being pretty good. But the really, really just bitter cold, it's just not. It doesn't seem like it's almost like it shocks the deer, and they hunker down because they're so not used to it. Um, and I know it's different where you guys are at because it's just a different climate. Like there's just they have if they want to eat, they've got to learn how to survive in snow and live in snow. And our deer down here just don't. Like they don't. The majority of the time, it's nice. And down in Florida, uh, crap, it stays green. It hardly ever even. the- I don't even know if Florida has a green up, man. Like so, like when it snows there, like that's a complete shock to nothing moves in Florida in the snow. They don't know what to do.
That's interesting because I mean, like I say, the everybody talks about like the cold fronts and all that stuff, and for us, like the backside of a snowstorm, like kind of like what you were just saying, like if you have like a really bad like snow overnight, and so you get, it would be literally like mind blowing for you, but like you get a stretch where you get 6 to 10 inches and nothing moves, everything's like blanketed, but then like that next morning where the sun's out and it's still cold, but like that's when all the deer are moving, like
Yeah.
they come off of that break. And I've heard guys talk about that, like those high pressure days where it's like super cold and sunny. Um, that's that's kind of like what you would see around here. And then when it's really cold, like those deer have to get up, like they
Mm-hmm.
have to get up and move, they have to get up and eat. So that's that's fine too, but that's not like a that's just a normal thing.
You guys, it seems like up north, the deer move in the snow. It's almost like the cold. I say cold rather than snow. The cold is kind of the inspiration for them to get up and move to eat because they know they've got to eat because they've got a winter that they've got to live through and survive through, and they need that food. And so, I don't know if that's a difference between the deer here is that they simply don't have that motivation, for cold weather because really it's pretty manageable,
Yeah.
other than a couple little spouts of really, really extreme cold weather, maybe a day or two a year.
Yeah, I guess I would probably liken it to like they're sitting down and saying like if we just stay here it'll pass,
Mm-hmm.
where the deer up here are like if it's not, it's here to stay now for good.
Yeah.
So like you think about like when you're sitting in the stand or whatever, like you're cold, like even like back when you were a kid, like you're cold, like get up, do some jumping jacks, like get the blood flowing, like
Yeah.
so like that. And I that's just like in my mind, that's what I think about. Whereas like your deer are just kind of like weathering the storm, saying like, "All right, we just I've been through this before. Like we just got to give it a few hours, and we'll be back to normal."
That's right. It's probably just a reflection of the people that live in the place too. Like whenever it gets really cold here, we all just hunker down in our bedrooms and our houses and make hot chocolate. You guys are probably like shoveling snow, doing actual work. It doesn't slow you down any because you're used to it.
Yeah, we don't have a choice. It's
Yeah,
just is what
exactly.
it is. So for you guys, like how long is your season? Because you guys have like multiple ruts, all sorts of crazy stuff going on down there. It seems like for us to think about. So how long is your season? Like when does it end?
Well, for me, if you decide to hunt out of state, then that's a whole different story, especially for early season. There's not a lot of places that are open as late as Alabama is. There's a couple that are a little bit later. I think um, Arkansas, parts of Florida. Like our deer contest right now is still open until March 3rd because that's going to be the last time somebody in our group has an opportunity to hunt deer. So for me, it ended on, oh, what day was that? January the, I can't remember. I tagged out in January with my son, but our season goes till February 10th here. And I started in September. So September, October, November, December, January, almost half a year. I mean, like 6 months.
Yeah, but so when does your turkey season start? Because that's what that's what I'm trying to find that like correlation. Because it seems like I mean, you guys at the Southern Collective, it's like there's still guys in the tree, and you're like, all right, we're getting off this turkey content. Like we're ready for turkey season. Like who's coming with me?
Well,
So
that's a
just
lot. That's a lot of a reflection of me and Walter. I think we love turkey hunting, and I know that you're going to talk about this today in this episode. But we got like a month. If I wanted to hunt South Florida zone, I'd be on my way to Florida right now. Like it opens. I think it opens the first week of March. It may be the 1st of March. But I'll start in Florida on March the 15th. March 16th, I think, is maybe actually opening day. So if I were to hunt all the way through February 10th, turkey season, turn around, drive down to Florida, March the 15th, dude, it's like a month. I got a month of time between seasons. And so whenever you're talking about creating the content that we do and doing the podcast, a lot of that has to happen in that month in between seasons. A lot of that prep has to happen. So it gets our mind going in that direction really fast. And of course, I love turkey. So when it gets to be Christmas, I'm like kind of looking at the calendar like, man, I'm ready to stop deer hunting. I'm ready to hunt something a little bit smaller that makes some noise. And like, I'm ready for it probably about Christmas time. I'm ready to start thinking about turkeys most of the time. But yeah, it's a quick turnaround, man. So realistically, I've got the summertime, June and July, June, July, August of no hunting because September it comes right back around with deer, and it's just kind of one long season through May.
so then like I mean, I feel like I kind of understand your hunting style a bit, but up here that postseason scouting, and we're in Michigan, so we've got the influences of like the John Eberharts and Dan Infalts, and I've heard Walt say a million times like that won't fly down here, blah blah blah, because you know it's so hard. Nobody can ever kill a deer in Florida. It's the hardest state in the whole wide world. If you listen to him talk, but like I just wonder if part of it isn't like just because of those seasons and things like that. So for you, what is like or I guess like maybe in the South in general is like postseason scouting, is there as much of an emphasis as there is up here in the North, would you say?
Well, you guys have the benefit of finding sheds, and down here, we just simply don't have the type of land to be able to find sheds easily and find a lot of them. So yeah, like there's a little bit of inspiration and motivation for you guys to get out in the woods and collect some antlers. And I've seen a difference, right? Like I travel out of state fairly often to hunt. Most of the sheds that I have in my limited time out of state, most of the sheds I have come from those trips and not from the majority of the time that I've spent in the woods here in Alabama. Like every once in a while you might trip over something, but I think a lot of it has to do with like there's not a ton of destination food sources on the public land out here. Like there's not a lot of crops, not a lot of anything like that. So like just going out into the big woods and trying to trip over a shed, good luck even seeing it too. You know what I mean? So there's not that motivation. But I would say postseason scouting for sure, guys are doing it, but a lot of guys are doing it during turkey season. Um, and that's hard to do if you're one track minded. And I am, but I love both. I love deer and turkey hunting. So just because one is completely switched on doesn't mean that the other one is completely switched off for me. Like I'm always thinking about both of them. And I know people It's hard to imagine that, and a lot of people are not that way. Most people have to choose one, and that's their favorite. And I just don't think I can. I can't choose one. I don't have a favorite. I like them both for various reasons, and so I'm always thinking about both of them. And when I'm turkey hunting and I see deer, I'm marking it. I'm turkey hunting. I find a hub scrape with 14 rubs on it close by. I'm marking it, and so that's where a lot of because that transition happens so fast. The woods and a lot of the deer in a lot of the places here in Alabama are still in the rut. I mean, just right before turkey season starts. And so you can be in the woods and finding fresh sign and seeing what is, the leaves are all off at that point whenever turkey season opens. Green up hasn't happened yet. So you can see what the habitat looks like during the fall. You get it's postseason scouting. It's still the same land. So I'm doing a lot of that there. And I mean, I'm scouting a little bit more than I usually do right now. I'm doing a small group at our church, actually. It's a scouting small group. And so it's like, you know what? Let's spend some time out in the woods, hanging out, fellowshipping, getting to know some new guys. And that's been a lot of fun, going out and doing that. But you asked if it's a big emphasis. Man, the most important thing to me right now is making sure that I'm getting family time in and doing my job, right? Like doing work, because it's about to hit the ground running again once turkey season gets here. And so if I've got 3 months in the year to actually dedicate completely with nothing in season, that's what I'm doing. So that's really what I'm doing now more than anything, is just kind of prioritizing, trying to prioritize as best as I can. And as you probably know, when you love this stuff as much as we do, it's hard to do. It's hard to just shut it off.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, that there's that part of it that, like, I try and explain it to, like, my daughter, and, like, so she can, like, really grasp, like, when other people talk about hunting or things like that, that, I've tried to explain it to a lot of people who I meet over the years, is like, this isn't for anything other than, like, this is our life, right? Like, it isn't like all for show. It's not, if the internet went down and there was no podcast and there was no video and there was no anything, we would continue to go shoot our bows. We would continue to hunt, you know, turkeys and deer and whatever else. And we would continue to, try to reach out and bring other people in and help people, because that's the way that we do it. And, if, kind of like what you were saying about church, like, if that bleeds over into your quote unquote real life, it is, like, almost impossible to, like, shut out. And I think, for a lot of us, that's, like, where we find, I mean, all the memes and all the joking aside, like, if there's one hunter at the party, you're going to sit there and find him and you're going to talk about him. But, like, that's how we kind of, like, ingrain this into our life, because that's, who we are. So if that's the common thread that allows us to move forward in business or whatever, then, that's okay too. But no, I 100%, I'm with you there. So my hypothesis on this was that because you guys don't have snow, it's automatically like, okay, so we're on to turkey season. But man, to have, like, just 30 days in between, like, ours doesn't start until, our season typically would be done January 1st. We had a couple of extra weeks, but then our turkey season won't go until April. So
Yeah.
for guys who are ate up with it and, don't, in the past few years, like this year's, we're kind of back on track, but there's been no ice. So for guys that wanted to ice fish, if there was no ice fishing, then what do you do in that time frame to, like, scratch that itch? And I think that's for us, is that postseason scouting. That's the shed hunting. That's all of those other things. I think you're very noble in saying, like, it's family first, but I think that's
Yeah.
maybe.
Dude, I would love to go find sheds if I felt like it was I had a decent chance of finding anything, you know? Like I could go out and say, "Okay, I'm going to shed hunt this year." And I could go out 7 times. Dude, there is a really good chance that I would not find a single one if that was my goal to find one. Like there's a really good chance I'm not finding any at all, period, you know? Whereas I know if I went right now to a place that I've been to one time in Missouri, like for one trip in Missouri, I could go find a shed right now. I could drive across the country, halfway across the country, and I have a whole lot of confidence that I could walk that place for a day and maybe find more than one, but I believe I could find one. Dude, I can't tell you I'm going to find a shed ever again here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean I've got 2 trips now here, and I've walked 14 miles, and I've not found a shed. But I've been talking to people like Johnny, right? Like Johnny Stewart. I feel like every time he walks in the woods, granted he knows these places, he knows where these deer are going to be feeding, all this stuff. And I've asked him, but like the hard part for me is that I can't turn off the scouting. So like the last 2 places that I've looked, I found some incredible sign. I found like where I need to set up, like where I need to put some cameras. I found just some incredible hunting spaces, and there's been tons and tons of deer tracks. So I go back and forth between like, is it just a matter of time because the deer still had their antlers on? Is there too much snow? And I walk past them, you know, when we were talking to Johnny, we were talking about it, and it's like you would give up all the sheds that you've ever found to have all the ones you walk past. Like that's
Yeah.
I feel like that's my life as a shed hunter.
And dude, I,
Um,
I know I, I know I walk by them all the time. You know, like I'm not crazy to believe. Like I'm probably just not good at finding sheds. Also, you know what I mean? Like, one thing I can tell you, judging by what my cameras have been saying in the last little bit, is that most of the public where I hunt, the the bucks are just simply not there anymore. Right? They've moved on to probably private land food sources like corn piles and food plots that are going to be a lot better for them this time of year, because the food's just all gone uh, in the big woods, you know. And so I think that may have something to do with it. They're shedding most of their antlers on the places where they're living at this time of year, you know, and a lot of times that's not in the big woods. So that's not to say there's not any there. I know somebody will listen to this and say, you probably just need to learn what you're doing. And that's valid. You know, that's super valid. Um, but we don't luck into them. I'll say that. You don't just luck into sheds often here.
so you said that you're running more trail cameras now than you have in the past, which I find interesting. So I just finished up I know you did a podcast series before with Bobby Worthington, and I just finished up his latest book, and it was it was interesting. I took a lot away from it, but I did guess I didn't realize like how much he put emphasis on trail cameras and stuff like that. And I guess you have to if you want to target these specific deer and kind of go after that. Like, so why the change for you this year to run more cameras than in the past?
I think for me, it just had to do with just upping my game a little bit, upping the size of deer that I shoot in general. You know, if anybody has watched any of the old Southern Ground videos or the Southern Collective stuff, it's pretty normal that I'll kill 3 decent bucks for here in Alabama. Like that's a normal year. It would be abnormal for me not to tag out if that doesn't sound cocky. I'm not trying to sound cocky. Um, but decent deer, you know, like not giant deer. I've got a couple of them that I've killed that are really really nice bucks, great bucks for the area that I live in. And most of the deer that I shoot out here, most of the bucks are going to be, you know, like this guy right here. You'd be hard pressed for me not to kill that deer every time he walked out. Um, but what a trail camera did for me is just let me know it was there. And I'm not. This isn't like breaking news or anything to anybody else. Probably. I just my pride didn't want me to know what was in the woods. I really enjoy this surprise aspect that you get a lot of times when you go out of state. You just don't know what's there. You don't know, and you read the sign, and when you read that sign and you see a buck come to it, just out based off of your woodsmanship alone, it makes me want to shoot that deer, and like if it's a decent buck, I'm happy with it, because I did that. It was as close to natural as possible, right? No technology, uh, in the midst of that. But I don't know. I mean, I know that there's bigger deer in the woods than what I typically would have settled for, and I wanted to see if I could do it. If that was the key, if that was the ticket. And I have opinions still on trail cameras and how people use them. Um, and I'm still a little bit, hesitant for myself on, like, I felt like I made a lot of mistakes because of the trail camera this year. Uh, Hunted a little bit differently than I would because of what a cell camera was telling me. It worked out great for me in one aspect. I killed the biggest deer of my life because I got a picture of him 2 days before. I got 3 pictures of him 2 days before, just on a scrape right in a row, and then killed him 2 days later because of that camera picture, right? So like, I was it the cheat code? Yeah, probably. Like it allowed me the opportunity to be in that spot or be around that spot. I didn't actually kill him on the camera, but to actually hunt a deer that I knew existed there, and I wasn't making a guess on you know is there a buck I want to shoot here. I wasn't just going based on sign. I was using an actual picture, and so um, that's always been my hesitant. Like the reason I hesitate with them is because it kind of felt a little bit unfair. But now that I did it, I don't know that I think it was unfair as much as it was just it helped, for sure. Um, I don't know if that answered your question very well. Uh,
No, no, I mean, so you said a lot of things there that really like resonate with me because I say those exact same things. Like I love the surprise. I love the woodsmanship. I always use the word like validation, right? So you're I always am coming at this thing from like the world's worst bow hunter, and so then to go into the woods, find a spot, pick it, sit there, have a buck come by that I want to kill, or any deer at that for that matter. But I really feel like validated and like what I'm doing, and I feel like there is like you're getting pulled in two different directions when I always say also like comparison is a thief of joy. Like I love the deer camp aspect. I love killing deer with my buddies. I love it when my buddies kill a deer. I love dragging deer. I love the camp. I mean, I love everything that that goes around like somebody getting a deer and being involved in it. Like that's what fires me up. And I feel like sometimes like if I don't shoot this deer, I'm robbing everybody of that experience that I enjoy. And then the other side of it is like maybe it's time for me to try to shoot a bigger deer or something like that. But for who? Like, like
right.
I don't, so a lot of the things that you said there, like that's kind of the way, and like I had said earlier, like I kind of understand like the way that you hunt and things like that. So
You know what? That's why it's important, though, not to ever say anything that's just black and white, right? When it comes to opinion things in the hunting space, especially when you've got. I'm sorry about that. That was loud. I don't know if you heard that. Um, Especially when you've got some type of platform where people can go back and say, "But you said this, and now this," And so I've always been really. I've tried to be mindful on what I've said about trail cameras or quote unquote fair chase methods and things like that. I don't ever want to say anything that I might eventually go back on, and change my opinion on. And so with trail cameras, I've been really cautious in how I've said it, because I have so many friends who um, use them and use them well and kill deer, and I would never want to take away their what they've done, from anything that they've done when they completely were within the rules, within the law. It just hasn't always been something that I wanted to do, right? And so I'm like you. I can always find a good excuse, right, to shoot that deer. Oh, my dad's here. Duh, I'm gonna shoot that deer, man. I'm hunting with my son. I made this a rule this year that I was gonna shoot the first legal buck that I saw with my son, right? 5 years ago, 6 years ago, let's say 8 years ago, before I had kids, I might have said, I don't know if I did. I hope I didn't. I don't think I did. I might have said, I'll never shoot another spike. Well, guess what? If a spike were to have walked out in front of me while my little boy was with me to see his first kill, I would have killed him. I would have shot him, right? If I had one tag left, I would have shot a spike. Luckily for me, we got to shoot a really nice buck to end the season. So the first legal buck that walked out was a nice one. So I didn't quite have to do that. But it's really important in turkey hunting as well. You see this a lot. Like, a lot of guys start out and they're like decoys. And then somewhere along the way, somebody tells them that a decoy is not cool. And then they go off blasting everybody that uses a decoy. And you could just follow a paper trail back to where they used a decoy. So it's really important in this space not to make black and white rules for yourself when things can change, right? And so that's how trail cameras were for me. I cautiously, and when I say trail cameras, I mean cell cameras, more so. Trail cameras, I've used them a little bit, just regular old SD cams or something. But yeah, I've tried to do that, and I've been really open about using them, and if I were to have killed a deer, here's the maybe the problem with cell cameras. I'll put out a fake scenario. Guy has a cell camera put up in a spot over a hot feed tree. He's hunting a spot 500 yards away. His cell camera dings. Oh, I'm gonna walk over there and try to make a sneak attack and kill this deer. Oh, killed him, killed the biggest buck of my life. That's where I'm kind of like, I'm still not going to draw a hard line because it's legal, and I just don't want to do that, and I have a hard time really giving anybody a bunch of credit for killing a big deer if that's how they did it. You know what I mean? I don't know that I wouldn't publicly shame anything. I wouldn't say anything. I'd celebrate with them just like I would anybody. But deep down inside, there's this part of me that's like, I don't know. I don't know if that's a good use for them.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a hard thing because, like, you could impart that same scenario into spot and stalk, or you look at. I mean, you could say like Jared Scheffler and those guys. Like, they just drive around and look for deer, and then they just walk out there and kill them. I mean, that's not hunting. They just saw him from the side of the road, and if they had had a rifle, they might have just shot him from there.
But it still is, it's still hunting. Like,
no, I'm just saying, like, that. It's just like getting that information, and I guess I'm just so bad at cell cameras that I feel like I've like written them off, like, to a degree, because I feel like you're all, at least it's been my experience, that I'm probably like premature and going in there. Like, you see him in there, like, you go in the next day. Like you said, you saw this deer 2 days in a row or whatever. And it's like every time I feel like I'm chasing something that used to be there that's not there. And I've made poor decisions, like knowing where I should have hunted, but then chasing a cell cam picture and then coming up empty, and not trusting my gut because of that. And I don't have like any from that aspect, and I'm sure you could go back and I probably said something stupid about him one way or the other. But but realistically, like that's why I just enjoy the fact of not using cell cameras, using cameras really at all. I like it for the inventory, but not like anything else. Like I said, just probably because I'm bad at using them. Um, but at the same time, like I guess like in the back of my mind, like maybe I'd feel like I'm not up to the challenge yet, or I'm not good enough to like target a specific deer. And I've had this conversation recently, like a bunch about like, when are, and maybe that's what I was asking is like when do you get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm going to find a specific deer and I'm going to try and kill him and I'm going to be okay with not shooting a deer if I don't shoot that one. And man, I just don't know if I'm there yet because you know,
I like
it
shooting
isn't like
deer.
necessary. Yeah, exactly.
I'll tell you what happened too. Walt was with me whenever this happened. He came up and hunted with me, and same area, pretty much the same spot where I killed the one that I was just talking about. I had not killed a buck all season, and it was I think it was December the, um, shoot, man, 7th, maybe. I think it was December the 7th, and I shoot this buck that is nowhere. He's not huge. He's a cool looking buck, but not massive. Ended up not being able to find him when Walt came and walked over to me. The the buck got up and ran. 2 hours after I shot him, the buck got up and ran off, and so that was a big time bummer. But I had so many. I had three really nice bucks in that area, and he was not necessarily one of them. But I was just so ready to shoot a buck, man. Like I was just like, I've been hunting since September. It's December, and I have not put any bucks on the ground at all. I'm struggling. I need to kill something. I need to kill a buck, and so I did that. Didn't find the deer. We ran all over that mountain trying to find that deer. Um, I think it was a day passed, and then another day. It was Monday, and no, I'm sorry, it was Tuesday. Uh, and that big buck showed up on that camera, on a scrape up at the top of a hill. And I wasn't necessarily hunting the scrape; I was hunting a bench down below it. Um, and that deer showed up on Tuesday. I told my dad. My dad was in town, and I said, "Hey, you know, I need I need 3 days. I'm gonna take the next 3 days. We got good weather. You're in town, so we're gonna be hunting. I need 3 days to hunt this deer." And it was a big sacrifice to get back there to him, to where it was at. Like when I say sacrifice, it was sleep at the boat ramp, right? Like I had to sleep at the boat ramp because I wasn't getting up at my house early enough to make it. Um, Wake up at 3 o'clock, be in the boat by 3:30, be out of the boat by 4, and hiking, right? So it was like a lot of steps to get back to the place where I was at, and I needed I was going to do it for 3 days, and I did it for those 3 days, and I shot him on day 2, um, of those 3 days that I gave him, and so you know I think that day 1 that I hunted him, I didn't see a deer. I should say that too. The first day that I actually went and hunted that in his um, a mainframe 8 point, 144-inch mainframe 8 with some split brows. So for an Alabama 8 point, that's a really big one. And I knew that I wanted to give him some time, right? Like I wanted to give him plenty of time because it's a nice buck for the area for sure. Um, but it was day 1, didn't see a deer. No deer came on my camera that day. Like it was just deader than Fred, and it was the middle of the rut. Weather was perfect. Deer were running around. It was just really, really a tough day for me. And then the next day, saw that deer and shot him. Like it was just that fast. And I don't think, if I were to sit here and tell you that I would have hunted the same spot 3 days in a row before I had a trail camera or a cell camera in there, it's just not, it's not what would happen. If I went in one day with zero intel, didn't see any deer back there, I'd be hunting a different area the next day. You know what I mean? Just based on my simpleton knowledge, deer knowledge, right? But because that camera told me that deer lived there, I was willing to go just a little bit extra, and put a little bit extra time into chasing that deer. But the other thing that happened that could have been really bad for me if I hadn't have killed him, the other cameras that I had out, they had shooters the same days, like just day after day after day after day after day. And like it could have been very easy for me to just move around with if I didn't have those cameras in place. I would have moved around, probably killed one of those other deer that was a little bit smaller, because they were moving. They were the deer were moving, right. Like it was good hunting, and I had cameras in good spots. But I would have never known any different. I would have been okay with a 120-inch deer, you know, posting it on Facebook with a grip and grin, as happy as I could be, not even knowing that there was a 144 that I could have been gripping and grinning with. And so like, you know, it, it removes, it doesn't remove the human element or like the woodsmanship element. It can magnify it a little bit. Um, but it adds a technology element that changes. It's kind of the same concept as if you use a fish finder or a depth finder for fishing, right? Like it just kind of it's a technology element that goes in it, and it if you're like me, if you're a guy like me, I don't always like to find an easy way, right? I want to find a noble way, right? Um, Sometimes that tech element that comes into things really throws me off, and so I still like, as you can tell, I have a lot of feelings that I'm still trying to hash out when it comes to them. Like, I'm super happy that I killed this deer. I'm ecstatic, and I don't honestly. After doing that, I want to do that every year now. Like, I want to go and target a buck. Like that was fun. That was so much fun. It was just a little bit different.
Yeah, it's interesting because I can I can honestly say, like, even prior to like the podcast and like the quote unquote mobile hunting craze, right? And I think you're probably in the same boat. Is, I was climber on my back for the last, hell, now, I mean, it's funny to think about it, but like for like the last 25 years, like quote unquote mobile, loggy bayou, hug the tree, old, big old metal banded climber. Um, and it's like, I feel like it, our nature to bounce around, like to be, maybe more so now with all the information and making these uh, mid sit moves and all of that sort of stuff, and just walking until you find what you're looking for instead of going to a spot. And that was one of the things in that book, right, with Bobby Worthington. And I remember listening to the podcast he did with him, and he was talking about find a spot in the rut and sit there for 7 to 14 days. And I was thinking, God, there is no way, and then read the book, see the illustrations, and I feel like being out in the woods, you get to see this stuff, and you see enough of it where you can relate, things that you hear, things that you read, and you say, okay, now I know why that was happening. Okay, that's starting to make sense. But like having a conversation with David Riley, like saying, do you think that you could do that? And so for you, now having done it and saying, okay, you'd like to do that every year, do you, I think at what point do you, um, I guess you have a relapse, right? Do you see that being like a real thing? Because I think on some level, like maybe it's even today's society with, you know, Facebook, Instagram, Amazon, Netflix. Like we want things now. We want immediate results, or we want that validation on that first sit where you didn't see anything, right? And your trail camera that gave you the inkling that that deer was there. You had no reason to believe that he wasn't alive, that he was still alive, that he wasn't dead. So like going forward, how do you think that that's shaped like your mindset from that like mobile guy that has to bounce around?
Well, I mean, I'm definitely still that guy. Like even that sit where I shot that deer, the wind was just a little bit different. I was planning on an all day sit. Wind was different, and it was changing from. Let me see, make sure I can remember this right. It was gonna start out as a north wind, straight north, and then it was kind of warming up that day off of a little minor cold front that had come through, and it was gonna be shifting out of the east, and so I ended up and that was going to happen between like 6 in the morning and noon, I think, or 11. And so I ended up setting up a little bit further west to adjust for the east wind, and I ended up killing the buck. I shot him. The first shot was right underneath the tree that I was going to be set up in on a north wind, which is the kind of the perfect wind for that spot. So it was still a mobile hunt, regardless. Like I still was trying to figure out, how to set up for that particular particular spot. Um, as far as how it's shaped me, I think more than anything, um, I just kind of this year was about finding fun back into it, like inserting fun into hunting for me. I've it's not a secret that hunting is a very much an ego driven sport, right? It's individual. We can try to have teams and camaraderie aspect, which is great, but it is very much an individual sport. And when you post your picture, it's a flex for yourself, right? Like it's a selfish sport. It's fun and I love it, and I'm not going to stop doing it, but it is pretty selfish. Um, and for me, it kind of has not been the last few years. It's kind of gone downhill for me. Like I get tired, and it's a long season, and I wear my heart on my sleeve, and you don't see any deer in Alabama. You don't see any deer until December, so you're hunting for 3 months without seeing much, uh, and then finally the rut happens, and you realize that it was just patience is in fact virtue, and I need to learn a little bit better. And December is always great, right? It's usually the time when you're going to see deer, and um, I think for me, I've doing it this way, and I've done it the way we've talked about, kind of just relying strictly on woodsmanship. And at the end of the day, I just want to find fun in it, right? So if one of those stresses me out is a different. I think deer hunting, there's a level of stress that's just going to happen with it, and we almost enjoy it. We eat it up. But if it makes it not fun, if concentrating on a specific buck that's 150 inches, that it's the only buck I want to kill, if in the course of that I find myself not having fun, dude, I'm not freaking doing it anymore. Like I'm out, and um, I think that is something I will say hard. I'll say it like kind of a very sure of myself. I will not hunt again unless it's going to be fulfilling. Not that doesn't mean I'm killing anything, but I'm not going to hunt unless it's fun. It's got to be fun. Like I enjoy this. I love this. I eat it up. I think about it all off season. And if I lose that, then I'm going to figure out something else to do. Figure out another way to do it. Maybe it's shooting a spike if I see a spike. Like maybe it's shooting a 6 point. Maybe it's just going out with my bow and trying to shoot a few does. Like I'm gonna figure out a way to mix that up. And if I wouldn't have killed that deer in those 3 days, there was a good chance that I was just gonna go on a killing spree after that. You know what I mean? Because like I was kind of getting into that point where I was just like kind of down. And I just don't want to do that anymore. And so anything that hinders that, I'm not interested. And I think that's why. When it comes to turkeys, it's why I love turkeys so much. And I tell you, I can't pick one. I can't pick turkeys or deer, but I can tell you that joy is much higher at a much higher level during turkey season. And I think a lot of that is because of the lack of comparison that happens with turkeys. Oh, my bird had a 9-inch beard. Cool, mine had 7. Who cares? Like it doesn't matter. Did he gobble? Is he a full fan? very few things for people to. I mean, there's a lot of things for people to argue about when it comes to turkey hunting, but as far as the animal itself, um, that's why I like it so much. It's like, you're not measuring inches or anything like that.
Yeah,
Um,
I always say that about turkeys is that like I mean I feel like every deer hunt you have a chance for the buck of a lifetime to walk in and you could screw it up or like whatever. But with there's like no pressure with turkeys because like it doesn't matter if that turkey has four beards and 3 inch long hooks. Like in the moment at especially if you're hunting with a shotgun and especially if you're using TSS and he's out there at 60, you have no idea what size spurs he has or whatever. Is it a shooter or is it not? Like, is he, like you said, is he gobbling or whatever? Like, when you get up to him, you're like, oh man, look at that. But you're not like, oh man, he weak spurs. Like his left one was busted off. I couldn't shoot him. Like that's not happening, and nobody, like literally, like you said, nobody cares one bit. So it's like,
yeah, nobody cares, and that's probably one of the reasons why I truly enjoy it more than anything. Like I love turkey hunting. I love the gobbling. I love calling to them. I love all that stuff. And down here in the South, it is a culture, right? Like turkey hunting culture is a real thing. And I love being a part of it. But there are differences in the two, in deer and turkeys, and like you said, shooting a big giant buck, something 140 plus, dude, like I can't compare that to a single turkey kill. You know what I mean? Like it's a different. It's like comparing um, apples and oranges, right? They're two far different feelings that just include weapons and killing something, right? Like they both end in a kill, but it's just different things, and I loved doing that. Being able to be with my son when I shot that the big 8 point that I shot at the end of the season, that was like I can't compare that to a single turkey kill either, like. But turkey hunting in general, just the act of it, I enjoy. I'll say this: getting up early to go turkey hunting or traveling a long distance to go turkey hunting is a lot easier for me than getting up early to go deer hunting. Does that make sense?
no, but I understand it.
Okay.
So, but I mean, like, so to get up, like for me to get up and drive 2 hours to go deer hunting, especially if I was like going in blind or like to a new spot or just to an area that I'd e-scouted or something like that, like I feel like you have to be like right, like you have to be very 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 right. Turkey hunting and like so I want to get into like the turkey hunting culture in the South because I want to hear about it, but like from the turkey hunting aspect of it, like my wife says that she doesn't care. She's killed a turkey. She's turkey hunted a few times. She doesn't deer hunt at all. But turkey hunting for her is getting up early, maybe not, riding around in the truck, drinking coffee with her dad, breakfast pizza, donuts, get out, call, sit, set up. But I think it's the answering back. Like you can go to a spot and if you can get them to answer, now you're in the game. Where with deer hunting, I mean, if we want to go back to like the whitetail adrenaline thing, like it's you see one and then like okay, so the game is on, and it can be the exact same way with turkeys, but it is so much more interactive. Like you don't maybe maybe I'm wrong and maybe you'll tell me why, but like I feel like with turkeys, like you don't have to be exactly on the X and you can kind of create your own scenario with once you find them, once you call them and you can get an answer and well now we can make this work where with deer you can go as far as you want to, but if you're not like on the X and especially if you're bow hunting, then like it might have been a fun sit, but there's so many more variables because they're not necessarily callable or that interactive.
Yeah, and I think it's like a statistics game, right? Like I wake up every morning in deer season and think to myself, my odds are not very good. right? Because they're not. They're really not. Most of the time, our percentages of sits to kills are not very high. Turkey hunting, I can wake up in the morning and say my odds of hearing a turkey gobble are decent. You know, like they're as good as they were yesterday. You know, like or whatever. Like it might be it if I hunt every day a week, 4 out of 7 days maybe I could hear some gobbling down here. And then turkey hunting's hard in the South. That's another separation I would say from where you live and where I live. I don't know necessarily about Michigan because I've never turkey hunted in Michigan, but I have deer hunted in Michigan and saw so many turkeys. And everybody I know from Michigan says them turkeys are they're dumb birds eating our corn. You know, like it's they're not nearly as prized as they are down here. And so that makes things a little bit different. But hearing a gobble, like you said, you don't have to be on X to hear a gobble. And if you can hear a gobble, you're turkey hunting, right? It's a hunt. And that's fun. That's the fun part. If a deer would gobble and tell me that they were at least, that I was at least close, you know, you can compare it like this if you wanted to, you know, sitting up in a spot and seeing a nice buck at 200 yards. That's not a waste of a day. That's a lot of motivation to get up the next day and be back where he's at. Same thing with turkeys. It's like if I know that I can be kind of in the game, I'm going to go, man, and I'm going to be excited about it because that's all I need. I just need that little thing to tell me I'm in the game. And it doesn't feel like a wasted hunt, you know. That being said, you still have days where you don't see deer and you have days where you don't hear a gobble. And so hunting is hunting, and you got to be there, and you got to grind, and you got to be in the woods, right? Um, but yeah, I think that probably has a lot to do with it. It's just
So,
not the barrier. It wouldn't be the barrier for entry, but it would just be like the what a hunt has to have happened to be a hunt and not just a sit. Um, it's a lot easier to attain with a turkey hunt.
so you had mentioned the culture of turkey hunting in the South, and that's something that I wanted to talk about. Like, what what does that like mean to you? What is quote unquote the turkey culture?
I'll sum it up like this. Have you ever seen? This might be kind of crude. Do y'all do crude? Do y'all say crude stuff on your podcast?
Oh yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Um, I don't know if you have any rules or anything like that. When you hear, have you ever been with somebody or driving around or in the woods with somebody and a turkey gobbles or you see a turkey and they make like an orgasm face on they're like, oh my God, you know, that's the culture. Like, it's like, it does something different to you. It's like whenever you see a turkey and somebody's like, oh, look, a turkey. And there's one guy in the truck that's like, oh my God, oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's turkey. That's probably some boy from Mississippi or Alabama. And that's just, that's the best way I can explain it. Like people who just, you can't, just seeing one or hearing one gobble for the first time in the spring is like, oh, you know, does that explain it good enough?
Kind of. I mean, yes, that explains to me like the passion
Okay.
and the feeling behind it. But like when I think about a hunting culture, right? Like I think of like during a Michigan rifle season, you can't go anywhere without seeing somebody in blaze orange. And if you're somewhere blaze orange, a little bit of camo, maybe some boots on, that people are going to ask you if you were hunting, did you get anything? Have you seen anything? How's your season going? Because I feel like it's like part of the like fabric of like that time of year here. Turkey season on the other hand, like we've been out turkey hunting, head to toe, full camo, go to the gas station, and the lady behind the counter will say, "You guys fishing?" Like, so it's just not the same, because it isn't like whereas November in Michigan is deer season, but
Hmm.
like the turkey season doesn't resonate across the entire population.
It doesn't here either. Now if you're in like, if you go walk into a gas station that's right next to a WMA, chances are they're going to know that it's turkey season. You know what I mean? Or next to a national forest or whatever, they'll know. But I would say the general population of people here don't really know about turkey hunting or care about it. A lot of deer hunters know about it, don't really think about it, and don't really do it. Um, it's kind of funny actually now that I say it out loud because there's a huge turkey hunting culture here. I mean, like the NWTF banquet or convention was last week, and I think there was like some 82,000 people in attendance there. I mean, that's a huge number of turkey hunters. And at any given WMA or national forest during turkey season, every gate's got somebody parked next to it. Like there's a lot of people here. But if you just at church, the majority of guys that are quote unquote hunters are not turkey hunters. Like if you get on a hunting club out here, a lease land, chances are if you're a turkey hunter, there's only going to be a couple of you guys that are actually turkey hunters on that club. It's just not, but the people who are into it are pretty freaking into it. That may be the caveat, I guess, is like it's like the guys who are doing it they're really doing it and they're putting a hurting on the turkey population.
Yeah, and I can see that because I feel like that's not the case. And even myself, like being around people who are really into hunting, um, there's a handful of serious turkey hunters, but I would say from like an overarching perspective, they're not the even the guys that turkey hunt aren't really that into it. It's just like,
Yeah.
maybe I'll buy a license, maybe I'll hunt, That it isn't something like that they just look for and wait for, and like the way that the people in the South who are into it, I feel like that's maybe like that, like caveat like you said, is like it's almost like there's no middle ground in the South. Like you're either not a turkey hunter or you're ate up with it.
Yeah.
Where here it's just like, well, I got some turkey calls. Like I'm not very good at them. I might go out, but it's just something to pass the time. But it could be that you're if you're if you're all revved up coming off of the rut and you got that 3 weeks or whatever, and now it's turkey hunting again, like that wasn't like a big time for decompression. Where for us, there's a big amount of time between the two for people to just be like, you know, not a big deal.
Yeah. No, it's you are right. Like I don't know that I've ever actually made that thought out loud or said that out loud. Is like, yeah, there's a lot of turkey hunters, but not at the same time. It's kind of funny, and maybe some of it is goes back to what you were talking about with a deer. You're more focused on being on the X, and with a turkey, it's a little more. You have bigger spaces that you're covering. Just because you're hunting that day, and you might cover 4 miles. Um, the amount of land required to hunt turkeys is a lot more than a deer, and so if you've got two people behind a gate that has 400 acres behind it, you could fit 10 people deer hunting in that. You can find 10 X's in 400 acres, With a turkey, it's like if you got one guy in there like that, he might cover that whole piece of property today. And so it just feels like you have a little less land to work with, a little less opportunity behind the gate on public when it comes to turkey hunting. And so it makes it feel like if there's 20 trucks on this WMA, uh, whoa, there might have been 50 trucks during deer season, but 20 during turkey is a lot.
Yeah, and I think it almost could be like the inverse of deer hunting. Um at least around here, in that when you talk about like it's a jealous man sport or like the ego that comes into it, is that in Michigan, I feel like if you have a piece of private that's a deer hunting property that's set up for deer hunting, there's going to be turkeys on it, and it's not that hard. And like people can come at me, whatever. It's just, especially with a shotgun, like it is not that hard. And I've been very fortunate to be around a lot of guys that can call turkeys. Like my father-in-law can call turkeys like no other. And so it's just not, if you have a good piece of private, and I think that that kind of like takes away from it when it is easy. Like you said, you like things to be like a little bit hard. I think that there is that large number of turkeys. You see them all over. People think they're stupid. If you have private land with turkeys, you can kill them. And I think that makes it less exciting because nobody cares. Right? Like
Yeah.
because it isn't a 150-inch buck. It's just a dumb turkey. And then when you get out on public and you have to call them and you got to chase them and you're running and gunning and you're doing all the fun stuff that we really enjoy, well, that takes a lot of work. And if there's more trucks there, it's real easy to be like, just to write it off and be like, ah, well, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I mean, it's I hate to say that turkey hunting's easier. I don't think it's not. It's easier to get lucky on a turkey, right? Like it's easier to luck into a bird that you make any sound, he's going to come running. They come to you, right? They're coming to a noise that you made. Um and so like dude, they're so very frustrating, but I think the payoff happens if you're good at turkey hunting. If you are a turkey hunter, the payoff happens a little more often than the payoff that happens with a big mature buck or just a deer in general sometimes. Um, and and so, but because there's not necessarily the quote unquote comparison game as much with turkey size or like individual turkeys, there's more of a comparison of the number of birds that you kill. Um, like if somebody's going and seeking validation on social media for their turkey kills, they're going to get a lot less validation for that than they will a deer. And it's probably because of just the like what you said. For some people, it's like it's just a turkey. It's a corn vulture. We see them in our yard eating flowers all the time. You know, like it's not a respected animal quite like a whitetail is. But down here, dude, they are like they're kind of ghostly sometimes. I can't tell you the last time I saw a longbeard. Like legitimately, I can't tell you. I don't just see them when I'm driving around. The last time I saw a longbeard would have probably been in Kentucky in September. Right? That's not even here in Alabama. I don't think I saw a longbeard this year in Alabama while deer hunting. So it's not like there's just a ton of dang turkeys running around, you know. Um, they're fairly prized out here, I would say. Like, and especially if you're a turkey hunter, you kind of know the scarcity of them down here compared to up there. And I would never want to take anything away from somebody who lives in Michigan who's a hardcore turkey hunter, or somebody who lives in Indiana who's a hardcore turkey hunter. But it's just a little bit different than hunting southern turkeys. Like, just, but again, I say you can still get lucky. I know people who have no business being in the turkey woods who kill a turkey every year because they found the right turkey, right? They found the one that was ready to die and he came to their squawking, right? Like it happens a lot more often in turkey. They're a little bit more vulnerable of an animal than a deer is. So when you add in people and the amount of people, especially that you saw come in during like COVID year, like the last few years has felt like it's felt like it's just kind of a little bit more popular. Like what I said about like the general hunting population is not super into turkeys. There's definitely more of those guys now in the last, 4 years. And a lot of them are just, they go a lot and eventually they get lucky. And if you get lucky once, it kind of gets in your blood, kind of gets in your bones and you can't shake it. And then you just become a turkey hunter, right? And so it creates turkey hunters a lot faster.
this is one of those lucky turkeys. Like
Okay.
I never. This is the first turkey I ever called in for myself, and it's like a 11 3/4 inch beard, and
The
it
booner.
was the most god awful noise that I was like knowing now, like the sounds that I was making. I couldn't imagine it, but it was like I was running the striker the wrong way, like counterclock, or I was running it clockwise, and I'm right-handed with a carbon striker, and it was just a super high pitched noise, and I got them to gobble, and then they just came running in, and it was so. I mean, there was a Jake and two Longbeards, and that's the one I shot. But it was like so much that I could not believe that it happened. Like I can't believe that that just happened. And when you say like you're hooked, now it's like, do am I good enough to call turkeys? Like, oh, or can anybody do it, or like what? Like,
Well, some people don't. Some people just simply don't get into it. Like I was talking to a guy the other day who was like, "Yeah, my first turkey hunt. We went out there and we belly crawled for like 400 yards and killed these two turkeys. And it was just a lot of work." And I'm like, "You killed on your first turkey hunt, and you're not like addicted to this?" He's like, no, not really. It was a little bit more work than I wanted to do for a turkey." And I'm like, man, like, and that just is proof to say, like, you can get anybody can go out and kill a turkey if you're in the woods, right? If you make the right sound, and it's that payoff happens sometimes, and I think because of that, like during the COVID year, people had the opportunity to be in the woods. People got lucky, and people kind of got it in their blood, and got addicted to it, just like I am, um, and it just all happened kind of at once. So it's I know there's been plenty of chatter and plenty of talk about the COVID year and what it did to turkey hunting, but it definitely affected the culture down here for sure.
to go full circle, and I've talked about this. I've done it because we had some private to hunt, um, and now thinking about it and the things that you just said, like it's like, yeah, maybe that's not right. Um, Cell cams and turkey hunting. You want to talk about a game changer?
We can't use them here.
Okay.
It is against the law to use a cell camera during spring turkey season on public in Alabama. I don't know if it is on private. So it's not even a option legally down here.
Yeah. Because like that, we talk about like being able to call them. Like you just need to be within a couple hundred yards. If you know that they're there or they were there recently, it's you know
It's game over. They're more vulnerable than a deer. They have less chance of getting away, and part of that is because they're always awake when we're awake, right? Like they're if we're awake, there's turkeys on the ground. If the sun's up, turkeys are on the ground. They're not probably roosting in the tree. So they're up, they're moving, they're doing things. And if you see one on a camera, you got a camera on your green field, man. Like I don't know how many turkeys die that way every year, but I would imagine it's a whole lot.
now can you guys reap turkeys down there?
Not on public. I'm so uninterested in reaping that I don't even know what the laws are here. I don't think you can use decoys at all on public, if I'm not mistaken, out here.
So, what makes you not interested in reaping? Just for, I mean, I understand like all of the safety aspects and all of that, but
I don't
it
know.
just seems like one of the things this year, like with deer hunting, is I was like going back for this upcoming season. Is I was going back through after I killed the deer with the longbow and just talking to some people, and like I've never killed a deer with a shotgun. Like I've killed them with a lot of different weapons, but never a shotgun. So this year I want to kill one with a shotgun just to kind of round out. And it doesn't matter. I'll
Yeah.
shoot button buck. I don't care. Just just to put a notch on the stock there. But like so for turkeys, it's like I killed them with a bow, killed them lots of them with a shotgun. We continue to chase them with the bow. I haven't killed them with the longbow. I've missed one with longbow. Um, but it just seems like if you've kind of like if you're and this is just my thought process, but like if you're quote unquote like a good turkey hunter, I'm not saying that you're not. I'm just saying like there's that challenge of like how can I do it differently. I mean that's why we started hunting them with bows is because we know we can kill them with shotgun.
Right. I guess the original question is why am I not interested in reaping? I mean, there is the fairness aspect, I guess. I'm not. Again, this is kind of like cell cameras. I don't think that if somebody shot, if you shot a turkey reaping it, I would not be like, oh, dislike and you're wrong and what's wrong with the turkey hunting population. It's not that necessarily. It's just not really the experience that I want. I like setting up and calling one in and him gobbling his way in and all that kind of stuff. And I think I also like crawling on them too. So I don't have any issues with that part necessarily. Like crawling up on a turkey to shoot it, dude. Let's go. Let's do it. Um, I don't. To be honest, like I don't know what it is. Something about it just doesn't look like I want to do it. And um, I've never really been in the opportunity where I could, or where I needed to. I'm trying to think in my mind if I was in Texas and I turkey hunt in Texas quite a bit with my dad. If there was a bird out in the corner of a field and we had a tom decoy, I would flash it to see if he'd do anything. I just really had never been put in the situation to do it. You know what I mean? Like I don't hunt a lot of field birds. Most of the stuff I do is on public land anyways. So I'm not going to reap a turkey that way. And so like, it's just kind of like I'm not really against it. I'm not for it. I don't have an opinion really, I guess, on it. Probably won't do it if I had to tell you one way or the other.
Yeah, I just feel like here we've got a bunch of places where I hunt. There is a bunch of public land with a bunch of fields, and you get them locked up out there at 60, 70 yards, and they're just doing their thing. It doesn't matter what your decoy setup is, and there's a million ways to play it. But those birds that are locked up, I just feel like that's the situation where I'd be like, okay. And like you say, you've never been in a situation like that, and you were talking about crawling on them, like the guy that didn't get him, like that COVID year, we called in a bird, and he took his hens and went up over this rise, and like I was thinking about, I could maybe dig out the video, but John got up in a elevated hunting shack. I crawled up this rise with my bow, and I got into 20 yards on these turkeys. I drew my bow laying on my back and popped up as the hen was like right next to me. Like I couldn't, there's nothing I could do. So it was like now or never. So I popped up and I shot right between his legs. I shooting at his fan. And, I mean, you want to talk about wild turkey hunt, but that's a situation where he was up over the rise. Had reaping been legal or whatever, I could have popped that fan up just over that and got him to come right to us. And, it's just interesting. Like, those guys that go and I feel like there is some skill level. I don't ever think about it being fair. Because that fairness aspect, I think as soon as you start calling them goes out the window.
But you guys you kind of have the added benefit of there being a very, very, very healthy and large turkey population. And I think whenever guys down here who work their tail end off for a turkey, in the heat of the spring, in May when it's 95 degrees outside, and we, kill the turkey, quote unquote, the right way. And then somebody else tries to compare that with a turkey that they reaped in a field that they just pulled up to. It's a different sport. It's like, and I think that may be why guys feel a way about it, why they're so strongly against it, is because the amount of work that goes into the two types of turkey hunting are very different. And yet and we also live in a social media age where a lot of it's gauged by the amount of likes, and it kind of, if I'm being honest, if I'm being transparent with you, I'm not trying to say anything negative. But I see personally, whenever there's a joker that has primo private land and he's trying to act like he's this turkey stud on YouTube because he tagged out in 4 days on his 4 Alabama birds. You know, I'm making up a scenario as we go right now. So this guy tags out in 4 days by reaping turkeys or sitting in a corner of a food plot on in a blind with a with a tripod on his gun, and it's compared to being the same thing. It's not. And you know, you understand this. It's kind of like high fence deer hunting. Somebody tries to come in and flex their high fence deer, and you're like, it's not illegal. They're kind of the same. One of them was significantly easier, and less earned, right? And I think that's where guys have and dude, I have to say this too. Like, I'm not trying to down that. I'm just trying to say this is to help someone understand why there might be a negative feeling towards it. It's because the amount of work that it takes to kill a turkey in South Florida in that swamp is in the whatever, the Everglades or whatever it is, the big public piece that's down there. Um, it's different. It's different for those guys. Like, it may be more comparable to killing a big mature whitetail, you know, because it's so scarce. It's so stinking scarce. And even out here in Alabama where I live, you don't go out and kill a turkey every single time you go hunting. But what I can tell you, in my non-resident traveling, in my traveling turkey hunting, statistically, dude, it takes me 2 days to kill a turkey anywhere else. In Alabama, sometimes I don't tag out on my 4 birds in a month, you know, and that's where I live. This is a place I know, and I know the turkeys, and I know what they do, and it still takes me days and days a lot of times to kill a bird. Whereas if I travel anywhere else, I mean, I'm serious. Like, again, I'm not trying to be cocky about this, but it's like statistically 2 days, a day or two, and I'll have a turkey on the ground in another state. And I think most traveling guys probably have seen the same thing. When it comes to Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, Georgia, those are the ones that kind of, you know, they're just a little tougher. It's just a little different ball game. And so, yeah, that's soapbox. It sounded a lot more like a soapbox because it felt like it was my opinion. It's not really. I don't care what somebody does. I think that's the mindset of it.
Yeah, and I mean the high fence thing, like it and all of it. Like I'm the like first to admit that, like, when I see somebody kill a big deer on Michigan public, or you know, I'm getting blown away by these deer from like New Jersey and Maryland and stuff like that are coming off the public, you know, and just like, geez, like I didn't know if that was a thing, you know. Um, and then like you go somewhere and you see a nice deer on the wall and they're like, oh, that's my Kansas buck or my Iowa buck, and I'm just, it doesn't matter if it came off the public, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm just like, well, okay, like, because
Yeah.
that's what we've come to expect, right? But it's like, uh, when like that's the way that I mean, that's what I'm hearing you saying, you know, that
Yeah.
it's more difficult. But I don't, I mean, I guess the reaping thing, like, is just different for me because I always think about like everything that could go wrong. You know, I mean, even decoying whitetails, you know, they send something's off and it's now all of a sudden like you just blew it. You know, less of a big deal most of the time on a turkey because, you know, they're not that smart. You can kill them tomorrow, or
Yeah. There's
you can
another
wait a
one around
couple
the corner.
hours and circle around, you know, that sort of thing. But I think it just goes back to like my thoughts is like, if you were out of state and it was a state that had multiple birds and you'd killed a bunch of birds in Tennessee or Missouri or wherever, Nebraska, you know, you see those videos like where there's like 800 turkeys coming at you. Like, I I think, in at least in my mind, that would be more of a kind of like a sure thing. So you could try a different tactic just to kind of like me with a shotgun, try to shoot a deer because I haven't done it. It might be something that I'd want to try. That's kind of like where my mind goes to with it. Like if I'm going to go try to kill a big buck in Michigan and I found a 160-inch deer on public somewhere, you can be damn sure that I'm not going to be trying new uh, gimmicky tactics or
Right.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't got the acorn cruncher out there. Like this is what's going to do it for me, you know? But I think in those times where it's like, if I want to shoot a doe with a shotgun or buckshot or something like that, like it's going to be less of a challenge. I feel like I'm just changing up the equipment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's my thought. That's like where my head goes with it, not necessarily on like the ideals.
I think that's the difference in turkey hunting and deer hunting. With deer hunting, I want to do it as many different ways as possible, right? Like I want to shoot one with a gun, shoot one with a bow, shoot one out of a saddle, shoot one from the ground, shoot one, in a field, shoot one in a pinch point. Like there's all these different ways that you can do it, like you just said. And turkey hunting, it feels more like I found a way that I like to do it, and I want to keep doing it that way. It's the same animal pretty much at the end of the barrel. Like there's not really much difference in the experience. It's a fun. That's not true. That I'm gonna take that back. You can edit that out if you want to. There is a difference in the experiences with turkeys. Every turkey hunt is a little bit different, but they're all kind of similar, right? Like, and I love that sitting up against a tree. Turkey comes gobbling, strutting in the range. You shoot him. No decoys, no fans, no blind, no field. Yeah, I could give or take a field. I don't really care if it's in a field. I don't give a crap. It doesn't bother me. Um, but there's just that it's the method, right? And there's a lot of literature about this method too. A lot of books, a lot of turkey hunters with their heart on their sleeve. We're a very passionate bunch and a very uh, sentimental bunch of guys. Hardcore turkey hunters are, and there's something slightly more spiritual about turkey hunting for whatever reason. I don't know what it is, man. I wish I could tell you. Maybe it's just that they make a noise, and that you're actually inserting yourself into their day to day. You're becoming like one. It's fun, man. It's like it's somewhat supernatural, right? It's somewhat spiritual, um, and so I think there's a lot of things that maybe we just can't come up with a reason why it is this way, but it's just this way. Just simply because it's turkey hunting, and there's just something a little bit different about the experience. Whereas deer is a lot more black and white tactics. A deer is pretty much a deer, no matter which way you want to slice it. A deer is pretty much a deer, and a turkey is pretty much a turkey too. But they're almost so dumb sometimes that they throw you for a loop, And it's like you can, if you try to be too smart as a turkey hunter, a lot of times you're left scratching your head. Again, man, it's you insert the supernatural spiritual element into turkey hunting, man, and it's like I think that is why it feels so different. And some things are just like the reaping thing. I don't know that I could tell you like why I feel that way. Like I kind of just beat around the bush the whole time, but at the end of the day, I still feel that way, and I still just don't want to do it.
Well, and I feel like we talk about the comparison with deer hunting and turkey hunting, and with deer, I mean, unless you are doing like the spot and stalk decoying deer, I would I would struggle to find a parallel between what you were saying about turkeys and deer, in that I think the most telling thing you said is like, this is the way that I like to do it. I, I don't know that you can like parallel that with deer hunting, because I don't. Maybe there are people who like to set up in a hunting shack with their coffee and their buddy heater and their rifle. Uh, Maybe there are guys who like to uh, be in a tree, freezing cold, or in the rain, or over a scrape, or whatever. But I don't necessarily know that you could say that that method is like the method that they like to do it. I think you could say that that's the method that's successful for them, because I don't know that the method is the part of the results. But when you were talking about turkey hunting, I can totally see, because my father-in-law, I feel like, is the same way. Like he has like a very ritualistic, and like when he gets to a spot, he sits down, he lays out all his calls in a certain way, and he has a plan. And when it comes together, like not necessarily like when it comes together, like even when it doesn't come together, like if you don't hear anything, it doesn't matter. We're still going to sit here for 30 minutes and we're going to wait and we're going to listen for those like little clucks, or like just the feeding turkeys or the scratching. Like we're gonna listen for all this stuff. It doesn't have to be these, but it is a very much like a ritualistic thing, instead of like with deer hunting. I don't know that there's that much. Maybe I mean, now don't get me wrong, Johnny Eberhart, he's got a ritual, but like for most people, it isn't like this is the way that I like to do stuff. It's just like the effective way.
So here's a theory. Okay. Um, Turkey hunting and good experiences that you have with turkey hunting are a lot easier to remember because they last longer, right? A gobble, you might start the hunt for that particular bird that day with a gobble at daylight, and then you might not pull the trigger most of the time. You might not pull the trigger until noon, 1 o'clock. Some of those days. But at the earliest, if you heard him gobble at daylight, you've got, I don't know, an hour before fly down, 30 minutes sometimes. Just kind of depending on the bird. But whereas a deer hunt is very much a game of seconds, right? It's the deer shows up, you shoot, just the rush of adrenaline. It's all just very fast, really quick. We all have deer hunts where we remember really well. I think if you've ever done a spot and stalk hunt, it would be similar. Guys are like, man, that was cool. Zach Farrenball has just decided that's the way that he wants to hunt. And maybe it's because you just are able to live in that. You're able to keep that memory a lot closer. Like the big deer that I shot, the one I shot this year. I mean, it all happens so fast, man. Like it's just the memories of that hunt are like, you know what I mean? They're just fast, very pieced together, because I had to respond and react and shoot the deer, right? And there's a lot of things that happen when we black out. Turkey hunts, or you just have more time to sit there and take in what's actually happening. I can think of a hunt, my first bird last year in Florida. We were sitting in a swamp. We hunted this turkey for, I think it was 8 hours. It may have been 6 hours. Joey was with me. Joey Bell was with me, and I had a cameraman, Casey, with me as well. We struck the bird at daylight, and I did not kill him until I think it was 1 o'clock. It may have been 2 o'clock, but it was nonstop gobbling, like 300 plus gobbles, maybe more than that. We were always inside the bubble, like we stayed really close. It was just a swamp, and we couldn't get eyes on these birds, but we could hear them drumming, and they would come to us and then just kind of go back to where they were going. It was nonstop, man. And I will remember that hunt for the rest of my life. Like I killed the bird, and even if I hadn't, I looked over at Casey at one point and was like, dude, I don't even care if we kill this turkey at this point. Like this is amazing. It was like nonstop for 6 hours. Joey actually had his it was reading his heart rate or whatever, and it was insane. Like the graph or whatever for 6 hours was like, wow, like peeking out, and stuff. And I mean, that's my theory. That's just a theory. I think that's why that experience is so valuable, and that's why I'm so gung ho on keeping it that way, because I like being able to remember it. I like being able to to be in that moment and it not just be a surprise. Don't get me wrong, I love the adrenaline and the surprise of a deer. I love it. I freaking live for it during the fall, you know. But turkey hunting just that's another difference for me, and theory on why maybe people are so passionate about the method.
So, what would your advice to be for someone who's maybe never turkey hunted before, or they're looking for something to do in that, if they've never done it before, and maybe they don't have anybody real close to them who does turkey hunt?
I mean, it sounds to me like they just need to go to Michigan, kill them a turkey, and get it in their blood. No, I would say find a turkey hunting mentor. That is something I didn't do. I wish I had one. And maybe I'm grateful that I didn't, because I was able to learn a little bit more. But I learned faster, maybe, um, and retain the information a little bit easier by doing it all myself. But having a good mentor, if you don't know where to start, um, that's huge. You know, and honestly, I would tell somebody, don't listen to me and think you've got to do it the way that I do it, because you don't. I mean, I don't want to take anything from anybody. If you've got a pasture out back and there's turkeys back there and you're trying to learn how to hunt one, kill it by any legal means necessary. You know, like, I promise you, if my son has a gun in his hand, or my daughter has a gun in their hand, and I have a decoy and there's a turkey out in the field and it's legal to reap them, I probably will do it for them, you know, because I want them to just at least have that moment, and then we can build on that and start really coaching on why we do this, and the ways that are the funnest ways to do this, you know, like, so that's what I would say. Go out and try to shoot a turkey by any legal means necessary. I might get roasted for that, but I think that is a great way to start.
And then I guess, just to kind of close out, but to go along with that, we talked about it with deer hunting. But if you're just starting out turkey hunting, how do you like overcome failure, or those times where you don't see or hear or whatever? Like, I feel like that's the thing that, I mean, we talk about youth hunting, we talk about all this stuff, we talk about this immediacy mindset. Like, what do you do if you say, okay, well, I'm going to try this, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to give it a whirl, and then nothing?
Dude, I mean, whenever I first started really, truly turkey hunting, um, like being a turkey hunter, I grew up in West Texas and we killed turkeys, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't, we sat over a windmill and would shoot them in the spring. Like, it was that easy. Um, could have been a whole lot of fun if I knew what I was doing. You know what I mean? Like, it could have been a blast if I knew how to call turkeys then, but I didn't. I started hunting turkeys like this way. I want to say it was in 2013, 2013 maybe, is when I moved to, we were in Georgia, started, just really wanting to kill something in May is really what it ended up being. It's like, I want to keep hunting, and so that's where I forgot even what your question was. I was getting there some way. What was the question?
So if you're going out and you're failing, or you're not
Yeah,
hearing
yeah,
any
yeah,
gobbles, or you're not doing anything, how do you keep going?
yeah, yeah. So this is what I would say to somebody now: just go deer scouting and carry a shotgun and wear camo, and take a turkey call. Like if that's what it is. I imagine most people listening to this are at the very least deer hunters, right? Just go scouting for deer and take a shotgun and just see what can happen. Do something useful if you're worried about the failure part. If you're not worried about the failure, if you're just out there to learn, then don't really worry about the scouting necessarily. But just be in the woods with a shotgun, with a call. Like I just learned so much just by going, just by being in the woods. And when I was in Georgia, that was what I was getting at. When I was in Georgia that first year, I was sitting in a blind on a food plot. Like I didn't really know and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was like. This is what they do on TV, so this is what I'm going to do. Well, these turkeys would keep gobbling and gobbling and gobbling. And I'm like, man, why aren't they coming in here to this food plot? So I started looking up, and this was kind of before podcasts were really popular, and I think maybe Wired to Hunt might have been out there at the time, and just started looking up like, can you chase turkeys? Like, do you have to sit in one spot, or can you actually just go and pursue them? And all the stuff online on the old gobbler forums and stuff was like, run and gun turkey hunting is what everybody was talking about. Go get it one tree closer. That was something that I heard at first was just get one tree closer, keep going. And you just kind of start piling things on top and building a knowledge base. And then eventually it pays off. Maybe it's because you got lucky and found a dumb one. For me, I got unlucky, and the first turkey I called up was so smart, or at least seemingly smart. He skirted me and ended up popping up in my face while I was stuck in a ditch. In a ditch sounds like a great idea, but a seasoned turkey hunter is going to say, you don't need to be finding yourself in no ditch because you can't turn around. I learned that lesson right then. Don't pin yourself down into one shot opportunity with a turkey. So it's just a gradually learning and building and being scenario driven. So on our podcast, when I talk to somebody about turkey hunting, if we're going to talk tactically, we talk scenario based, right? So what would you, Adam, do if it were a cold and rainy day in the spring and you were hunting turkeys? Like very scenario based. Then what somebody can do is say, well, I heard Adam talk about what he would do if it was cold and rainy. Maybe that works. You know what I'm saying? And that's the funnest thing about turkey hunting, and the most frustrating is that there's no just rules. There's no for sure this is what the turkey's going to do. They might always do something different. But the more experiences you pile on, you can start to make decisions based on what happened last time or what happened to your buddy or whatever, because it is so particular with the bird that you're hunting. It's like, so you're going to go out and you're going to get your butt kicked. You're going to get your butt kicked. And then there's going to be one that might make you feel like, wow, that was easy. And then you're going to go out and get your butt kicked again. You're going to get your butt kicked again. And then does that make sense? It's just kind of,
oh yeah,
just keep going. I don't know any other way to say it.
I can think of so many of those scenarios, when you're talking about the bird that skirted you, the one that, there is in the rain, like all of these things, and they all, if you're out there hunting, you're going to run into all of them eventually. And there are so many, like you were saying about how many times, like how like visceral turkey hunting memories are. It's just like anything else, is like even so much more amplified in the failures in those scenarios, like you said with the turkey in the ditch, and the lessons learned, and especially like, if you're the caller, God, how many times have you, the caller, been able to kill the bird, and the shooter doesn't even know that the bird's there because they come in quiet, and there's no way for you to signal them or whatever, depending on like your setup. Like the amount of times that stuff like that happens, like I totally agree with you as far as the scenarios.
It's all just totally scenario. I think that's the reason why Dave kills turkeys almost. Dave Owens, for anybody who doesn't know, Pinhoti Project, he kills turkeys like it seems like every day. And it's when you build a knowledge base like a database really as big as he has for turkey hunting, like when you turkey hunt as many days in the spring as he does, it is only natural that that's what happens. You know, the more you build that database, the more successful I would almost say for sure, the more successful you're going to be. And you got to start somewhere. There's very few people, public land turkey hunters, I'll say, very few people going out and killing a turkey every day that they go hunting right out the gate. Like, shoot one, just focus on one, and keep building that database, because that's really where it happens. And I see that with so many people, like some people that are during COVID year. Walter's a great example. Walt started hunting turkeys hardcore during the COVID year because he had the time to do it. And Walt's a smart guy, very educated. He's my business partner, so I trust him and I respect him a lot. Hasn't turkey hunted a whole lot, you know, not for a really long time. But because COVID year happened, dude, he put a lot of time into turkey hunting, built a lot of knowledge just by going and being in the woods, shot his birds. And now I do really believe Walter could go anywhere he wanted to and kill turkeys. But it comes with that time. Like, you just got to have the time to invest into it, and you got to be willing to invest the time and to be frustrated. And, you know, you eventually find yourself like, wow, I've killed a lot of turkeys, you know? And I can remember back when I was like, I don't know if I'm going to kill one in my life ever.
Yeah, you know, again, I feel like it's one of those things where it can be like a nice transition, you know, for somebody who's looking for someone who doesn't fish or whatever. But it is very, very fulfilling, because it's a more exciting. I feel like it's more exciting than deer hunting. Like, it's so much different. But when they're gobbling, like, there's nothing better. And so I love the way you put that there with just go deer scouting with a shotgun and turkey call. Because, you know, even just the amount of times that I've struck birds just walking and calling, like, we're walking back to the truck and we're just calling as we're going, and then all of a sudden you get a gobble and it's like, oh, you're, like you said earlier, like, we're back, we're back hunting again.
Yeah,
like, it's not over. You know?
Yeah, man. That's the thing that I love so much about it, man. Is like, it's until the clock strikes 1 here, right? We got till 1 o'clock. Until the clock strikes 1, like, you can strike a turkey anywhere. I don't know if you've seen the videos of, like, turkeys hanging out in front of somebody's truck at the gate while the guy's out hunting, and somebody films a wild gobbler strutting around the truck. You know, like, that's turkeys can literally be anywhere at any given time. They're always going to be awake when the sun's up. So use every minute you got to chase them. You know, like, that's a great part about it. From daylight till dark, it's time to kill a turkey.
So you had mentioned your podcast and your the videos and stuff like that. What do you guys have coming up? I know Walt said you guys were leaning in pretty heavy into turkey season. So what have you guys got coming up over there?
Yeah, so we're doing something we've never done before, and it's called March to Spring, and it's going to be 31 days of turkey hunting podcast for the whole month of March. So a podcast every single day, the month of March, all about turkeys. Typically, we're a weekly podcast, right? So we produce a podcast that comes out like every Thursday or something. And one of the things that we've had happen, which you may see this some, you may not. You probably don't dive into turkeys quite as much as we do, but we get some complaints from people like, y'all quit talking about deer, and we want to talk about deer, you know. And so you can see that in the YouTube videos. Numbers really start dying off in April and May about, you know, turkey videos. Podcasts are the same way. So what we decided to do is pack the whole turkey season. All of our turkey content is going to be in the month of March. That being said, it is more turkey content than we have ever produced. It's just all in 1 month, right? So I think it's going to be great. If you do the math, it's like 31 podcasts is three quarters of a year or so of weekly podcasts. So if a turkey hunter wants something to listen to throughout the year, he can save them up, and just listen to them sparingly. If you really just want to march into the season with us, we'll be there every single day in March. And then, of course, we've got YouTube stuff that'll be dropping in the month of March as well. And but what we're really diving into hard is the podcast with these turkey podcasts. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's already been fun. We've already started recording We've got most of them done. And with that, we're doing a new merch drop too, which is pretty cool. It's called the Rest in Peace Old Buddy series, and it's the 3 T-shirts. I hesitated because I was like, "Is it Rest in Peace Old Buddy?" I think it is. I keep wanting to say Rest in Peace Old Friend, but it's Rest in Peace Old Buddy. We got three different designs, and they're kind of dark. Edgar Allan Poe meets Tom Kelly type vibes from it. But I like that kind of stuff. I like that kind of art. So go check that out at socohunt.com/store is where you can find those shirts at. And then the podcast will just be under the Southern Collective podcast feed anywhere that you can listen to podcasts.
Well, awesome, man. I appreciate you taking the time today and going over this. I feel like it was a really fun conversation. So, like I said, I'm just happy to chat with you.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I'm always happy to talk about what's going through my mind right now, and that is how to get away from deer and start thinking about turkey. So this really helped me a lot.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.